You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. And with me is Dan the Bartender. So we're going to talk a lot about Dan the Bartender. And we're going to talk a little bit about, in fact, maybe a lot of it, about your future in failing. And what do we mean by that? Well, we'll get into a conversation about that. In the meantime, Dan does do consulting. He does do serious project management. You've got process improvement, man. He's the one to call. And, you know, on a personal basis, he's an amazing coach. So Dan, you want to tell us a little bit about your business, and then we'll start talking about your future through failure.
Sure. Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me here. Appreciate it greatly. My business is a little bit all over the place, I want to say, because I do resume work for people, and I also do a lot of career coaching, and lately, shockingly, a lot of relationship coaching, which I really wasn't going to go in that direction, but I am now. I also do project management workshops, and also in the edutainment space, as we call it. I do project managers, bartender's guide to project management. And in that space, I do keynotes and conference symposiums and also workshops as well. So I am a little bit all over the place in what I do, but I always have fun doing it. And hopefully in all cases, serving as a conduit to help people learn, grow, and better themselves.
And it really is using the same skill sets.
Yes.
Just in a different environment. And I love your bartender's guide approach, right? So, think about it. I don't know about any of you listeners, but I will confess, I will go to the bar and sit at the bar, right? Because I want to talk to the bartender, right? And we're just joking and whatever, but I've, in my lifetime, have developed great friendships with bartenders, and they really are the casual shrinks of the world. You feel comfortable telling them everything.
Fully agreed. And I as a matter of fact, on my website for my business, I have the bartender's credo, because everything is about keeping it confidential. Bartenders don't go spreading your stories and your name all over the place, but they take in your story, and they always seem to have something to apply to it. And so I think it's kind of like you said, it's the casual shrinks of the world. And but boy, the networking is amazing as well.
Yeah, most definitely. So what do we mean when we say your future through failure? So I'm going to tell a little story that some of you may have heard before, some of you may not have heard before, but bear with me. And then we're going to have a conversation with Dan about what that's all about. So how did I become a coach, a keynote speaker, a trainer? Certainly was not on my vision. I was very much in corporate America. I lived for many years on the East Coast, and I was very successful. I was on the board of directors at John Hancock, Property and Casualty. I ran some major businesses for GE, the disability, the workers' comp, and their asbestos litigation. I did some amazing things at Mass Teachers Association. So high-level organizations, I was at the top. And then I moved to the West Coast. And bringing a Boston, I have to say I'm from Boston, street kid, perspective to the West Coast was not a good mix of drinks, right?
Right, correct.
And I am truth. I will always be me, and I'm going to tell the truth. And that worked for me and was a strength on the East Coast. It was not a strength on the West Coast. Long story short, I got fired. And my perspective when I got fired was like, who the hell do you think you are, right? Do you know who you fired? And so I went through the cycle of change, right? And I wallowed in my self-pity for a while. And yes, I sued their butt for doing it. It was, not, there was no justification. But it made me stop and think, wait a minute, I am so angry. Do I even want to get back into business? And the answer was no. And so I started consulting, and I picked up coaching purely by accident. I became a business process coach. There was no people skill segment in that training and in that certification. So I said, I need people skills. So I'm going to get me this thing called life coaching certification too. And that's where, it has been uphill since then. Right. So the point being is, if you take the opportunity to sit, you just don't know. And so, Dan, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened with you.
Oh, yeah. Wow. It's so interesting because you talk about the opportunity. I'm gonna get there, but I had 2 straight positions where I faced a lot of supervisory managerial pressure, and it was all negative. There were a lot of pieces to it that were quite a challenge, and in those spaces, I felt anyways, that left, right, or straight or backwards, any of those was going to get me yelled at, cause a problem. None of those answers, none of those directions were correct. And I had two different supervisors, 2 different positions with the same company, by the way, where that happened. And it's funny you talk about the opportunity in the forest. I talk about the forest a lot, where you're in the middle of the forest. You can't see the things that are going on. And I had a buddy of mine who called me, and we were on the phone, and he goes, the good news is, at least you know what kind of manager you don't want to be when you become one. That is great advice and perspective. But in the moment, because I was in the forest, I wanted to reach through the phone and just choke the heck out of my buddy, because it wasn't that's not helping me.
Right.
Because you're in the forest. Okay. I'll give you some of the things I went through were Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. I would get up and I would do a workout, and I would iron my shirts. But somewhere between 8 and 8:30, I could feel the pit, the knot in my stomach starting already on Sundays. It was affecting my physical being as well as my mental being at all times. I had one of those 2 bosses would berate me on every Friday afternoon. We would have a meeting, and she would berate me every Friday afternoon. Now, part of the problem here was the job was one title, but the reality of the job was a different title. And I was not that different title. I was the job description at hand.
A skill set. Yeah.
Yes, I was all that. And the funny thing about it is like, this meeting would happen in a conference room that had glass walls. I would come out an hour and a half later, and I would just sit in my cubicle, and any number of the other coordinators around me would come over, and I remember it very vividly, and they would come behind my chair and be like, "Are you okay? Are you all right? You're going to be okay. We'll get you through." Because they knew that this supervisor was that big of a tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, so for example, it affected even my TV watching. Like, that's how deep and dark this went. I couldn't watch TV or movies that were related to the field that I was in, because it would just then envelope me.
You'd get triggered.
In that darkness.
Yes.
always. And for the longest time, the funny thing is outstanding movie, great actors, The Devil Wears Prada. Okay. Those were my bosses. They were like that daily, and sometimes meaner. The funny thing is they didn't have lives of their own. So they were sending emails out on Saturday nights at midnight.
Right.
And then treating me, now I look back on it, see, in the middle of it, you're in the force and you don't understand. Now I look back on it and they're like, oh, now I see that they were being mean to me because I had a life and I wasn't staring at email at midnight on a Saturday. And so it was always this dark space for 2.5, 3 years worth of 2 different positions that you could see probably a month into each one of them, that it was just not going to be a good situation or even professional.
So I have a question for you, Dan. So
Sure.
I honestly, again, looking back, I've done a lot of healing of my own because I feel I can't show up for my clients if I'm not also working on myself.
Correct.
And in looking back, one of the things I've realized for me was this specific situation that I was in. I was being managed by someone from a different culture.
Mm-hmm.
And culturally, for him, women are subservient.
Correct.
And he had a woman who had been on the board of directors, who had worked for GE, who had worked for Mass Teachers, and successfully grew those businesses like that.
Mm-hmm.
Who would turn around and say, no, that's really not what's next. And therefore the controlling got tighter and tighter and tighter, right? So what people run into is a variety of social, economical, cultural differences, right? And for you, what you ran into, it could have been systemic. Mine was systemic. When I went to sue, the lawyer looked at me and he said, I've been doing this for 35 years. And the first client I ever had was from your company. Don't think this is going to change anything. Right? It's systemic. And then so talk about your perspective of the variety of things that can be going on that is telling you you're in the wrong culture, you're in the wrong job, you're in the wrong whatever.
Okay, so I believe in both instances. It's funny you mentioned systemic because I can say the same thing. I want to say like it was it's like a reverse discrimination, but I can't, like, saying that sounds like I'm putting it in the class of everything that's going on today, and I don't want to walk into a pit like that. What I want to say is that there are a lot of people in this organization that have these same characteristics, and I also ran across them later on and before. Mm-hmm. But I've since been in a different space. A lot of things that were going on were, so for example, I was trapped. As a matter of fact, I felt trapped by HR.
You are. HR is there
for what
yeah.
I didn't know at the time, the second person, what I didn't know at the time was that my HR rep was also my boss's vacation buddy. Didn't know that. So the HR rep was not on my side. And they talk about how HR is supposed to be there for you.
They're not. They're there for management. They're there for I've been a manager, and they're there for management.
Yeah.
That's why unions succeed.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so it was just a space where I even went to HR saying, okay, well, how, and they blamed it all on me. Why did they blame it all on me? Because this person was a vacation buddy with my supervisor. Well, of course I'm going to get all the blame on it, and I'm also expendable. I'm also like, you can get rid of me and find somebody else.
Oh, I totally own getting fired, because I totally own the fact that my attitude was, you guys don't know what the fuck you're doing. Pardon my French, right? This VP that was responsible for my demise asked me to work on a project, and his words were, can you do for this project what you just did for that one? I had a project that his department tried to kick off for 5 years and couldn't get going, and I had it up and running in 9 months. Right? And I'm like, yes, I can.
Mhm.
I can. Not
Right.
not you,
Right.
me. And then the micromanagement started. And so I owned fighting that, rather than saying, if you want to run it, you can run it, but that means you don't want me.
Yeah, and I think there's also the control piece is funny, because it, there's a piece of it that they want all the accolades, and therefore they want to either direct or do all of the work as well. I mean, they tell you to do stuff, but they certainly don't give you the breadth of space to do the work that you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here in any way, shape, or form. One, I always feel lucky to be in a position I'm in because I'm employed. I've been able to, go down good pathways and find new opportunities. Two, I'm educated. So don't treat me like I'm the idiot in the room. I consistently feel like, and those supervisors very specifically made me feel like I was the 17-year-old fry guy. And you're never going to get to be the grill guy because we're never going to let you be the grill guy.
Right.
And so it's a challenge because it's a culture. And here's the funny thing about it is, this is part of the empowerment piece. One of those supervisors, I can do nothing but thank every day, because they pulled me from a position that you couldn't get paroled out of in the organization. And she fought to get me, but then she treated me terribly. Now, the funny thing about that is the history of the position shows, like, there were people that knew, and they were like, hey, I'm going to connect you to this person. I'm going to connect you to this person. And these were all former coworkers or, that worked for this person. And guess what? They all said the same thing. They would go home crying. They didn't know what to do. And it was a challenge, but all I can do is thank her, because I was in a role where I was way overqualified, but nobody realized it because of the title, because of what that title was. And so she pulled me out of that. And I'm in this position today that I am now as I'm appreciative, because I wouldn't have been in it had she not pulled me out of that position to work for her, which is it's such an ironic space to be in, to have to say, I'm grateful for going through that, because I wouldn't be where I am today. Just like you said, getting fired.
Yes. It gave me, once I stopped licking my wounds, the space to say, well, now what do I want? Right. I know I don't want that. I'm done with that. Right. And so you talked a little bit about what I call chaos, right? You cannot have change, folks, without chaos, right? So, and chaos is not comfortable.
No, it's not.
Right. And so one of the things I do with a training class that I do, which is all about the dark side, and with my clients, is let's get comfortable a little bit every day with being uncomfortable. Let's do something you really don't want to do, something small, so you don't, right? So that you get past that, and you get, so that when the chaos comes, you can say, I recognize this feeling, and I know I can go through it because I do it every day. This is bigger, but I can get through it. And I wonder what's on the other side.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because I had to do that. And as you're stating those words, I had to get help. And as as a person who hopes to always have some sort of, control is the wrong word, but handle on where life is going. And also as a card carrying dude, okay, dudes don't ask for help.
No,
okay?
Dudes don't.
We'll figure it
but
out.
I have as many dudes as dudettes.
right. And that's the thing. Like, so I had to, and speaking to people, especially, my dad, very specifically through this time period, because I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen this. He goes, but you need to get some help. You need to get a third party objective viewpoint on this.
Right.
And so I had to stretch myself and just walk through the quagmire of I have to walk to help. I have to get to a space where I can get some help. And I was very fortunate that our organization is large enough to have a program, whatever it's called, where we can get a counselor. And so I went to a counselor. In both cases, and it was funny because I wanted the same counselor for the second boss that I had for the first one. And the words coming out of his mouth on what I was going through, he actually, like, at one point in time, he actually put his pen and paper down. He goes, I'm in uncharted territory. And I said, okay. He goes, no, because I can't believe I've run into somebody who has tried every one of the suggestions that I'm making to make it better for you. And so he had nowhere to go in terms of, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? And I was like, well, I tried this and this is what the response. And I tried this was the response. And I think this is probably what makes us good coaches, because we see the 360 of the opportunities of how can I try to make it better. And then he gave me this little bit of advice. And this is probably the piece that helped me through more than anything else. He said, when you get out of bed in the morning and you put your feet on the floor, he goes, don't put your feet into the hole that's already there. He goes, put them on flat ground. He goes, don't start off your day in the hole.
I call it starting your day with positive intentions. What's your intention? How do you want today to unfold? It may not unfold that way,
no,
but how do you want it to unfold?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, so it's fun. And it's funny, you talk about chaos, and my day today is filled with chaos, filled with, like, we're leaving tomorrow on a trip, and I'm at, like, today is, okay, get this done, get this done, get this done, get this done. Oh, and by the way, I have an interview today as well, but I'm like, I'm doing this. So I'm like, okay, how do I get through all this? But that's the chaos. That's the uncomfortability that you're talking about. Yesterday, today, this past weekend, presenting to people was uncomfortable. Thursday, because it was virtual. So the feedback on a bartending, presentation wasn't what you'd like it to be. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. I had to go in and see this counselor. And had I not gone and seen the counselor, I don't know if I would have made it through those two challenging scenarios.
Well, I'll tell you, a friend of mine who knew me through all of that, and I came through the other side, and grew from it. Her and I were out to dinner or something, and she said, well, Gail, you were going through some serious PTSD when you got fired. And she is absolutely right. PTSD isn't just about bombs going off. That's what you were experiencing. If a movie is triggering you, you've got PTSD.
Could not.
Yeah.
I wanted to reach into the screen and just choke Meryl Streep's character, because that's what I was going through daily. It's tough. It's funny. And you talk about that. I hadn't worked for the second boss in 6 years, but I would see her car in the parking lot every morning. And as soon as I saw her car, I was like, oh God. And here I am in a wonderful job with a wonderful boss who would, like, she tried to lighten it up. She, like, for my first APR, because she knew I was working for this tyrant. For my first review, she said after the review, she goes, I was going to have a box ready here for your stuff, just to be like, you're out of here.
Oh, no. That's not funny.
No, but it's not funny at the time. It's funny now. She was trying to do her best space of, Dan, you're fine. You're okay. But you don't, like, they don't understand how long that lasts for you.
Well,
how long PTSD lasts for you.
It lasts until, and I don't think it ever really goes away. I still get that twinge, but again, one of the things I teach on the dark side is where in your body are certain things occurring, so that when I get that twinge, I know where in my body, and I can go, oh, this is about to happen. And I could like, heck no, this is not the same thing. And I can let it go before it overtakes me.
Yeah, and I literally, I've tried a couple of different things there, just closing my eyes and meditating. And another thing is I visualize, like in a cartoon with the train going off a track into the cliff.
Oh my God.
I take that and I
Yes.
put that on the train. I put that feeling on the train and I let it go off the cliff. And I go, now I have to shut this moment down.
Right.
I have to shut this moment down in order to move forward with my day, with my experience, because that past will affect everything in the pathway that it experiences, that it comes into contact with.
Seriously. I have a dear friend who is, in fact, I have to connect with him soon, who's opening a rage room. Mm-hmm. So that when you are in this position, you've got to let that go, or you're going to have a heart attack.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's right? So it's
go break stuff.
Yeah, you have to. I can say that I broke a few things in the pathway with these two bosses, and I can also say that it affected a number of relationships.
Absolutely.
Because it cannot not affect that stuff.
It cannot. You're poisoned. You're toxic. I lost friends that I kept. I'm like, I'm surprised you stayed around. I wouldn't have stayed around me.
Yeah.
I would have woo. Yeah, she's poisoned right now.
You're always Debbie or Danny Downer. That's all you are all the time. And because it consumes you, it consumes every one of your thoughts of how the heck am I going to deal with this? I got a buddy right now who's in a really bad spot with his job, but it's a couple of people that are a challenge, but not necessarily to him, but to everybody. It's not directed to him. And he's got logistics issues. And I'm like, okay, how do you want me to help you? How do you want me to help? Because I want to be there and say, like I sent him a text message yesterday. What's the next step? Do you need to be looking, or are you going to try and grind this out?
This is the key, Dan. You went for help.
Yes.
I went for help through the coaching, because like I said, you have no idea how for 10 years I've been coaching. I'm on my 11th year, and every single year I do self-development, and it's all about, you cannot do it alone. You cannot read a book and think that you're going to get enlightenment from that. You cannot do a homework assignment and think you're going to get enlightenment from that. And you can't have a 3-week, mastermind or whatever group and think that that's going to change things. It takes work, it takes commitment, it takes intention, and it takes help. So let's talk. I want you to talk about some of that stuff that you have gone through for help and what you do for people.
Sure. No, absolutely. And no, I was just about to say, I agree with it. And it's so funny because this presentation I did the other day was for project managers and business analysts. And afterwards they had a networking piece. And in the networking piece, there were 3 or 4 of us that got together, and we were talking about, our projects moving forward, that kind of stuff. And one of the guys, I can't believe, he laid it out there, and he said, hey, I was wondering if you guys would want to chat about things, not just here, but outside of here, like get a group together. And I said, oh, I'm already in with these 2 dudes. So like one way or the other. And it's about, I can't believe he did it, because he took the leap. He took the leap and said, I need, this burden is so much that I have to come up with this stuff every day that I don't have an outlet. I don't have a talking space for it. And I said, hey, I get where you're at. myself and one of the other guys, we do it probably once a week. And then the other guy has just started with us kind of, and we kind of go there once every couple weeks. And you have to go get help. But I liken it. It's funny. We're both coaches, and I always liken coaching to AA.
It absolutely is.
You have to get past the denial to go get the help. And that's also what I had to do when I was in these positions that I felt trapped in, when I can't watch TV shows, for goodness sake, because I'm so triggered. I had to get past my own denial of the space that I can handle it and go get the help. And it ends up being this crazy investment in you. So, and I'm not saying come to me. I'm not saying go to you. I'm saying for any of your listeners, find somebody,
that you trust,
something
you believe
in. Third party is the key, though. And the reason
not friends and family. No.
The reason I say that is because your friends and family have heard this crap enough, or they've seen it enough out of you. You need to go find somebody that can help. I have a friend that I'm helping in relationship coaching right now, but she also has a counselor. And I'm helping her move forward. And her counselor is helping her deal with
I've done that as well. Yep.
Her back layered crap.
Yep.
And we all have it. There's a song by Bon Jovi called "Everybody's Broken." It's on the Lost Highway, and it really is like, he says, "Welcome to the party. Come in and sit down. Everybody here is messed up." Is essentially, and we are, but we're so afraid to go get the help. I get frustrated when Gail, you and I were talking earlier about a client who's always calling, wanting to have your time but not paying the money. But like, you have to look at that, whatever that is, the time, the money, the tasks you're doing, and for goodness sakes, do the homework that your counselor gives you.
Well, I call it do the work. I have fired clients who have not done the work. And like I said, Dan, I've been in this business 10 years, and this is like one client. So 10 years, one client. Let's think about that for a minute. But she didn't do the work and expected me to lift the load every week. Yes. Right. And I'm like, that's not why I'm here.
Right.
I lift my own load. I don't need to lift yours.
And you have to do the work all the time. So let's go back to where I was at. And look, by all means, like, let's also have the real conversation that we are not perfect. And there is every day in my life is not rainbow sunshine and pooping gold. Okay.
Man, you haven't gotten to the pooping gold yet. I'll tell you all about it. Okay, after this. Okay.
Right. And so like there's still the trials and tribulations. I can tell you though that those words from that counselor, as a coach, I've said those words to a coach, to clients as a coach, because I had to practice it. I had to literally physically get out of bed, put my feet on the floor, and look at me. I'm closing my eyes because I'm envisioning it where I was at the time, and like understand that I'm not in a hole, that it will get better, that I will move forward better. But you know what? I had to do that no, my dad couldn't tell me that. My buddy who said, well, you know what kind of manager you want to be then, and what kind of manager you don't want to be. That's great advice, and I love it. And in the moment,
not going to get me out of this situation right now.
I wanted to punch him. Thanks. Yeah, Yeah.
So, you're strong. You can get through this. That's what I have always heard my entire life.
Right.
Can I have a day when I'm not strong?
Right. Like how? Okay. How? Where's the roadmap? The roadmap is through somebody who can truly help you. That yes, you trust, and that as I use in my bartending language. Chemistry. You have to have chemistry with somebody that it works, that you develop the bond, that you can understand. And I can tell you, I don't know about you, Gail, but for me as a coach, I can pretty much nail the moment that I realize a client truly trusts me. And it is typically for me, based on frequency, 5.5 months in. It is, I can see the look on a client's face, and I understand right in that moment from their nonverbals that they realize how much they trust me. Right.
And I'll tell you, Dan, I fall in love with my clients because I watch them grow.
Yes.
So I just finished a road trip, and on that road trip, I went to San Diego. I mean, I put 10,000 miles on my car.
Nice.
Yes. And I
That's a lot of contemplative time.
Oh, it certainly was. And I have a client there. And so he said, can we have a session? And I said, sure. It's been a while since he and I talked. And he shows up with his notebook from all of our meetings and his notes.
Yeah.
And his session was nothing more than, here's what's going on right now in my life. Thank you. I'm going through the notes and I'm doing the work. If it wasn't for you, here's where I would have been. But this is where I'm at now. And I just want to check in to see if I'm still on the right track. I'm like, heck yeah.
You're still doing the work. That's
You're
great.
doing the work. Right.
You know,
and it's not hard work, but it's scary work because it's facing you.
yeah, no, absolutely. And you have to do the hard work of understanding that, you know, you are probably making some mistakes in that space too. Like you said, you own being fired because you were fighting the system. I have no doubt that in those two scenarios with those supervisors, I have no doubt that I made mistakes and that I wasn't perfect and that I may have sloughed a task or something. I have no doubt about that. Okay. But you have to realize that you have to move forward. Now I handle that crap completely differently. My supervisors now, if there's a mistake made, if it's not done, I raise my hand and I'm like, hey, you know what? That's on me. I didn't get it done. Because that ends all the crap. That ends it.
It's over.
Okay. Now, yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that with the supervisor you're in that moment with. You know, if you're in that pressure piece, you can't do that because that just gives them something else. But it's in your next phase, in your next space, that you can do that with a supervisor.
I'll give you a story about one of my early clients. I mean, she was amazing, but she came wanting to leave her job, wanting to leave her children, and wanting to leave her husband. And I'm like, well, we're not leaving anywhere or anything until we get to the root and solve the problem. I will tell you that I needed to shift her energy. Everything is energy.
Yes, it is.
And how I did it, I'll tell you in a moment. But 2 weeks later, she sent me an email. My boss wants me to help him build his next empire. From wanting to quit because she felt invisible, she felt invisible, to that was amazing. And then
that's just one phase gate. That's just one step she took on her path.
One step, right? Yes. And then the children, you know all about protective time.
Yes.
One of them said, tell your coach I love her because you think I'm invisible. She did not realize that this child was not getting attention. So and then her husband with protected time. She called me we had a very long session. And at the end of it, she says, I realized that I have dreams and he doesn't. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Holy crap. So what we did, and guys, I have not suggested this since because I've not had a situation. I give you homework and tasks to do based on what intuitively I think you need. She needed to change her energy immediately. She was from New England. I was in San Diego. And I know how prudish New England women are. I told her to go and get the sexiest outfit that she could possibly wear and wear it under her clothes to work. And she's like, no, I can't do that. I said, yes, you can. I'm not going to tell you what to get. It's what you're comfortable with, but it has to be, you have to know that you feel sexy in it. Her energy when she walked in that office was completely different than it was the week before. She calls it her Wonder Woman outfit.
That's the old Nuke LaLoosh, Crash Davis, Bull Durham, where he puts the garter on and then it changes to what you're thinking about all of the time. And then he's breathing out of the right eyelid or the left eyelid kind of stuff. Like that's exactly where you need to go. Right.
That's exactly where you need to go. And so, one of the other things I've studied, because everything is energy, is chakras. Mm-hmm. And the chakra that is responsible for money, manifestation, creativity, and sex are the same.
Wow.
It's the same chakra. right? It's your sacral. And what happens,
I love it, by the way. Love it.
what happens is, and I'll tell you a story. When I was so successful at John Hancock, people they vied for me, they fought for me to lead their team, right? They reorged and the VPs called me and said, we want you to do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, let's go for it. And it was hot because for me to create stuff and develop stuff was the sexiest thing ever. And I'll tell you, I had a very happy husband when I got home.
Right.
Because that energy still needed to be
released.
And this is why people have affairs at work. Because that energy, it's the same place.
Yes.
It's the same place. So, one of the tricks is to learn to tap into that and then bring it in and not out to anyone other than your significant other, right? Right. And so it's all about how do you get that energy happening? How do you make it happen? And for everyone, it's different.
Well, and that speaks just to like the regular terms, would be, dealing with confidence and having a little bit of confidence in yourself and building that confidence and not sitting in a space where you don't have confidence. I have stepkids, and I love them dearly, and they're going through their own transitions, and one of them had this very confident space. And I said, you need to take that confident space, that confidence you feel in that space, and put it on this train track as well, so that you are that same person going in the door when you're going and doing this other thing.
Right.
And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to go there. And it's also, there's a whole lot, and especially it's funny, there's a whole lot here that you and I are talking about that is all easier said than done.
Thank you.
There will be people that listen and say, oh, you're talking about getting help and I can't go get help, or whatever it is, and looking at a different perspective and figuring out how to get out of it, adding confidence and all that. And they'll think like, it's just so easy for you. Not at effing all is it easy. It takes a lot of like dig deeper. I actually had a note on my computer screen for a long time that just said dig deeper. Stick your heels in and dig deeper in order to make something happen better for you, build your confidence and move forward, and understand that failure is just part of, God, I hate saying fail for, I hate it. I can't stand it. It's so cliche, but failure will help you build your best success.
Failure is part of what happens with chaos.
Yeah.
Right. And what I learned for me is frequently when I fail, it's because I've stepped out of my comfort zone and sometimes out of my skill set. And there's a difference between my natural capabilities, and I work with clients on capabilities versus skills. Capabilities, you've got intrinsic. Like my capabilities is truth, and I can see. That's why I was always successful in business, because I can see the trajectory of where we're going, right? If you do this, this is the dominoes that are going to happen, right? Do you sure you want to do that? Skill set is something that you learn.
Yes.
Right. So, if I'm outside my capabilities or outside my skill set, I'm going to fail. If it's outside my skill set, I can learn it. If it's outside my capabilities, it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen.
True. But I want to caveat that just in this space. So, there are things like that you can do to improve your capability.
Skill set.
In some space, huh?
Your skill set.
No, also your capability. I think you can. You can. So, but I don't. But I'm in agreement with you on the statement, but I would never want to shortchange somebody figuring out a better capability. So for example, like I am not ever going to be a rock star or a country star, but I can improve my singing.
True.
To be better when I am singing rock music or country music.
But you're never going to make money at it.
No, I don't think I'll ever make money.
Right, right.
But-
So that's it. Right, absolutely. So we are on the same page,
Yeah.
sort of, right?
I
So-
think we are. I hate if you say you don't have the capability, is it because, and I'm not saying this directly to you, I'm saying it in a philosophical, let's go down the rabbit hole sense for just a moment. Is it because you know you don't? Is it because you don't believe you can? Or is it because somebody told you you don't?
Well, I will tell you, one of the other things I've studied in the past 10 years has to do with spirituality.
Mhm.
And I know from a soul perspective, my God-given capabilities.
And that's great.
And then I help my clients figure out their God-given capabilities.
No, that's fantastic. I am not a fan of zeroing it out until it needs to be zeroed out.
It doesn't, but it doesn't mean you can't do this stuff, but it means you're going to struggle. It's going to be hard. And if you can focus on getting to the same place you want to get to, leveraging your God-given capabilities, it'll be a smoother path.
Yeah.
A much smoother path. And I'm all about ease and grace. If we can do this with ease and grace, then why are we struggling? Why are we
Very
struggling? You know?
Very true.
And so Dan the Bartender, I'm so glad that we are connecting. I hope that I get a chance to chit chat with you tonight, because we do have something on the schedule tonight.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Well, through the group that we are associated with,
Yeah.
there's something going on tonight. Tonight or tomorrow night. Anyway, I would love for you to let us know if people want to know more about the bartender's approach to the bartender's guide to, right? You have your leadership, your project management, your personal development, the
Sure.
bartender's guide. How would they get in touch with you?
They can either go to my website, which, by the way, I already know is very antiquated. I'm working on that right now. It is where'syourroad.com. That's where'syourroad.com. And my email address, and I think even my phone number are on there. It's been a while since I even looked at it. That's how, but my connecting information is there. And then also you can contact me at dan@where'syourroad.com. That's dan@where'syourroad.com. And I'm always interested in meeting people, networking, seeing if there's something I can help out with. I love doing presentations, but it always seems to be secondary to helping people better themselves and get to where they want to go.
Honestly, it really is about self-improvement. With that, Dan, I want to thank you very much for spending time with me. And,
Great time.
And the empowering process. And folks, I will, if you go to my website, to my blog, you will see this information written down. In fact, I will put it in the description so people will know, no matter where they go to hear this podcast, how to get in touch with you. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you. It was a great time.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process Podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.